On the mind of every high school junior is the question, where do I want to go to college? And even more importantly, will I get accepted into the schools I apply to? Getting into the college of your dreams often requires top grades and competitive standardized test scores. We are here today to look in depth at the question of whether SAT and ACT tests should be required in the college admission process. Over 860 four-year colleges in the United States have eliminated the standardized tests as they have many problems. Research proves that standardized tests are faulty predictors of academic success and therefore should not be used in the college admission process.
Standardized tests should be required for the college admission process because they provide a fair assessment of a student's ability to apply concepts. The SAT cannot measure a student's overall work ethic because it only measures what a student can do in a couple of hours, which is an extremely narrow look at 4 years of work. However, when used in conjunction with grades, it can give colleges a general idea of how prepared students are.
One of the most compelling reasons that SAT and ACT have no merit is that they are biased. Gender, race, and class bias exists within these tests. Gender bias is particularly disturbing as it favors males over females. Fair Test, which is a national organization that advocates fair testing, showed that females of all races score an average of 35 to 40 points lower than males on both the SAT and ACT. In addition to gender bias, racial bias also exists within these tests. According to a comprehensive University of Miami study, Hispanic students scored an average of 90 points lower than white students, and yet still performed equally in college. The last example of bias is class bias. It is proven that upper-income students can afford to have tutors and therefore score better on these tests. Unfair connections between family income and test performance do exist. How can lower-income students possibly compete with a student that cannot even buy test prep materials, ranging from $50 to $200? These upper-class students can hire professionals to teach them and can repeat the test several times, whereas the students who cannot afford these are unable to repeat the test. According to Adventures Incorporated, a consulting firm, about 2 million students spend about $2.5 billion a year on test preparation materials and tutoring. This equates to about $1,125 per student. How can a lower-income student possibly pay for this? This proves that these tests favor the wealthy.
The SAT is fair because it tests only the basic concepts taught in math and English courses, and that's why it should be used in the college admission process. According to employers, good grammar is credibility, especially on the internet. Your words are all you have. They are a projection of you and your physical absence. In addition to testing basic grammar skills, the SAT also tests algebra skills, which are important for basic problem solving and critical thinking. Because the SAT and ACT test basic grammar and math skills, they are fair, but they can also encourage students to pursue more advanced curriculum.
Why? The second reason that the SAT and ACT should not be required in the college admissions process is that the scores have proven to be inaccurate in measuring the success of future college students. Instead, class rank and high school grades are much better indicators of success later in college. Additionally, other factors, such as stress, can paint a negative picture of the student's success and therefore cause him or her to not be able to get into college. A comprehensive 3-year study involving 80,000 students at the University of California has proven that the SAT scores had a very weak correlation to college success. Therefore, these tests are inaccurate in predicting future success in college. Now back to you, Jay.
Thanks, Hayden. The second reason that the tests are fair is because they go through rigorous quality control testing. For example, in every test there are questions that do not actually count for the student's scores. They are just there to be evaluated to see if they are useful questions. Another part of the extensive quality control testing is each test is evaluated to ensure that the majority of students have time to finish.
Lastly, the SAT and ACT lack credibility because they're coachable, and thus do not adequately assess the ability of the students taking the tests. Specifically, a huge misconception about these tests is that instead of measuring talent, these tests really end up measuring how well a student can take a test. As a well-known expert once said, coaching is really teaching the test, which thus is unethical. Specifically, in a Princeton review that guaranteed at least a 150-point increase in these tests, and therefore this proves that tests are coachable. In conclusion, the SAT and ACT standardized tests have no place in the mandatory college admission process. Moreover, intelligent students that do not score well on these tests are negatively affected and therefore feel less worthy.
The last point I'd like to make is standardized tests provide essential tools for colleges to evaluate students on an even standard. For example, if students are earning different grades at schools of varying academic rigor, standardized tests allow colleges to more evenly assess their aptitude. In summary, because standardized tests are fair, they should be a required part of the college application process. Although the scores do not always accurately reflect a student's work, they provide extremely useful tools for colleges to compare students.
Thank you all for joining us today with our discussion on standardized tests. It's been a pleasure, Jay.